Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Michael with RC Crawling. Today we're going to be installing a new servo on the C10. I burnt out the old one. We trimmed the body last time, put new tires and wheels on it. I think those tires are just too big. They're 62 millimeters, so we're going to do something a little different with the tires. I won't bore you with installing these new tires, but I do want to talk a little bit about foams versus inserts. So let me show you what's going on. With the truck sitting on flat ground, room for the tires, but as soon as you start to flex, getting some body rubbing still, and I just don't want to do any more trimming to the body than I have to, than I've already done. So that's why we're going with some smaller tires. We're going to be running these Endura 58 by 24, so a little shorter and a little wider, which I think those will look pretty cool. But what we're doing by ditching the foams, I've noticed when I'm driving this, I'm getting bad roll on the sidewall, and it just gets worse as you add more weight. So as I push on it, you can see the tire folds under itself. That's bad for side hilling. You're going to topple a lot easier. So instead of foams, we're going to put in these Endura yellow silicone inserts. Some people modify these by cutting the outer ring off. I'm just going to run them stock for now. If I decide they're too stiff, I'll come back later. But they go inside the tire just like the foams. So yank the foam out, stick the insert in, and then mount it on your wheel, and you're good to go. Since we covered tires and wheels in the last episode, we're not going to cover that in detail, so I'm going to go ahead and swap these, and then we will start on the servo upgrade. All right, we've got the new tires on with the inserts installed. As you can see, they're a little bit smaller. Opens up those wheel wells a little bit. I don't think too much. I think it'll be perfect. We take it off our stand. So now when we flex, not contacting the body as much, still a little bit, I think that'll be okay. So that's good. And now, when we push on the side, you see that tire does not fold over as easily. Nice and stiff on the sidewall. That's going to help when you're side hilling. So the tire doesn't fold and you flip. It's going to help keep you planted better. Now we're going to move on to the servo swap. We've got our Endura 11 kilogram coreless servo. Very good servo for the price. It's not the fastest or strongest, but for the price point, I think it's a good combination of affordable, powerful, and fast. And our aftermarket servo will require an aftermarket servo mount. That's this piece here. And we're going to get this installed. We're going to have to take the old one off first, and then we'll throw this new one on, and I will show the process on how to do that. I've already taken the body off the C10. The servo we're going to need easy access to, so I'm going to go ahead and take the front bumper off as well. Just like the body, it's held on by 2 screws, one on each side here. Bumper off, easier to get to the servo. We're going to need to take the servo mount off, and it screws on through the top of the diff right here, and it's also attached to our Y-link right here in the back. So we're going to go ahead and pull that off. Probably, let's start by taking the servo horn off. Just unscrewing this screw from the front of the servo. Servo horn comes off. Makes it a little bit easier to get to what we need here. We need to get to these use this as a pointer. I need to get to these two screws. You'll notice these screws are longer. So make sure you set those aside because you want to put them back in the same spot. If you mix them up, you'll notice that your screw's not going to go all the way through. It's not going to bite and hold your new servo tray on. On this servo, let's talk about the wiring a bit. On this servo, yellow is the signal wire, and that's plugged into the top post on our receiver. On the new servo, white is the signal wire, so when we plug this in, we'll plug it into the top. Good to pay attention to the orientation of things when you're taking it apart. I'm going to go ahead and unplug it. So we've popped it off of the differential now. So our axle's now not attached except for at the shocks, and it came apart. The drive shaft fell apart. No big deal. It is still attached here on the Y-link. If you're more comfortable taking your wheels off to get access to this, go ahead and pull your wheels off. So I'm going to get this last screw out, if I can, with the wheels on. So that screw is just in the back here. And now in one piece, we've got our servo and the original servo mount. We're not going to need this anymore. That goes in the trash. What we are going to need is our new servo mount. And our servo is going to mount to it just like this. So the servo is going to be on the, what is this, driver's side. So just like we took off the old one, you want that on the right hand side if you're looking at it. This is wrong. It's going to mess up your steering. This is right. Servo horn will attach there. So I'm going to go ahead and screw. What am I going to do? Yeah, let's go ahead and screw the servo onto the mount and then try to put it back in the reverse order. So I'm going to go ahead and screw that on here. You can see how the holes line up. We've got holes right here, and it'll go right through the center of that servo mount. So on the ears here, sometimes when you flex, these ears will hit the chassis rails. So you might want to Dremel these off. I'm going to leave them on for now. Don't really care about the chassis rails hitting at this point. We're going to swap the chassis eventually. But if you want to go ahead and clip these top holes off with the Dremel, or if you have some tin shears, that might work. These are kind of thick. Dremel's probably the best option. So I'm going to go ahead and screw this to the mount, and I'll meet you back here in a second. All right, here we are with the servo attached to our mount. I'm going to try to do this the lazy way. If your drive shaft comes undone, no big deal. You do want to make sure they are phased, however. And the way I do that is just make sure the screw on each side of it is pointing the same way when you attach the drive shaft. That gets the joints aligned right. If it's not in phase like this, it can cause some binding and cause your drive shaft to not move smoothly when you're flexing. So you'll notice that if it happens. Not the end of the world. Just pull it apart real quick, get your drive shaft back in phase. If you don't have it in phase, it can stress your motor. So it just puts a little stress on the drivetrain. We're going to try to slot our Y-link. Again, in the back, it's going to go between the back of the servo mount. If you have a 4-link setup, your links are going to go on the outside. We're going to get to that later in this series. For now, we're just going back to the stock arrangement. So getting this lined up is a little tricky. You probably can't see what I'm doing very well. I'm not holding it up to the camera, but got it slotted in there. And before I drop it, I'm going to run this screw through it. You don't need to see all this. You get the idea. I'm going to run that screw through it, and then I'll meet you back here in a second. All right, I fought with that Y-link and won. Got it back in position. So we're ready to screw our servo mount back onto the axle. The diff cover goes over the front, so your servo mount will nestle in between the diff cover and the back. And as you're doing this, you'll see what I'm talking about. So we're just screwing this screw back together, maybe. Hello, Beanie. Got one of the cats talking to me. And since we're screwing into plastic, reminder, just snug it. Hello, kitty. Just snug it down. You'll strip it if you tighten it too much. If you strip it, not the end of the world. Put a dab of super glue in there. Okay, kitty. The people need to see what we're doing. Thank you. Put a dab of super glue in there. The screw will be held in by the super glue, but not so tight that you can't unscrew it later when you need to. So we're just screwing this down. I like to look at it. And when I'm getting close to that head nestling down against that diff cover, you don't want to get much tighter than that. If you over tighten it, like I said, you'll strip it. If you're using metal parts, you can pinch it so hard that your differential gear doesn't want to spin. All right, so servo is on there. It's mounted. It is not time to put the servo horn on yet. What you're going to want to do is plug this back in to channel 1. On this one, it's marked steering, STR. Some of these are marked channel 1. The way I remember it, 1 to turn, 2 to burn. Channel 2 is sometimes marked THR on these ESC receiver combos. So white wire goes to the top. Get that plugged in. Got our signal wire in the right position. We're going to grab our controller. Always turn on your controller first. So controller on. We're going to grab a battery. And reminder, get a LiPo bag. It's $15 versus a house fire. $15 is a lot cheaper. So we're going to plug in our battery. Get it turned on. And you can hear and see this servo is working now. You can see it spinning. What you're going to want to do is center your steering on your remote. So back to 0. You may need to adjust it after we're done, but you want it at 0 for now. So our steering is centered now. We can turn this off, just unplug it, and now we can put the servo horn back on. We can use the stock links, but we need to change the servo horn. I've already got some high clearance links that came with steering linkages. I'm going to go ahead and switch to that since we're using a stronger servo. You can get some flex out of these plastic parts, and it's just kind of annoying. So we're going to swap over to the metal steering links, and to do that we're going to unscrew this screw and that screw, and this whole thing's going to come off, and then we'll put the new one on there. That's too big. 0.05 probably. Yep. So we're quickly just going to unscrew that. Your wheels are just going to flop around now. So old plastic steering link, you can keep it until you get your own upgraded metal one. If you don't want a metal one, just keep the plastic one. So there's our new one. I like the color. It matches the body pretty well. Not an exact match, but hard to complain for Amazon. $18 for links. So our new cross-link and our little bitty link that'll go to the servo horn. The servo came with an upgraded servo horn. I've not had good luck with metal servo horns. I tend to be really hard on my steering and snap the screws off in the servo horn that screw through this, and then I lose steering. But we're going to use it since we've got it. So what you're going to do screw the new links on. I'm going to get the links put back into the right place, and then we'll talk about the servo horn. All right, so we got the new steering linkages put together. The way you want to do this, at least for these links, you've got your link arm going to your servo horn, screwed in front of the screw-on point here, and then the servo horn goes in front of that link. That's the way you're going to get the best clearance. Your steering is centered, so now you're going to put your servo horn on, and typically you want it just a little bit to the left, and this servo horn has teeth on it just like the output shaft of your servo. So that's just a little bit to the left. You can tell the wheels aren't quite straight. But that's okay, you'll use your steering trim on your remote to get it dialed in just right. And then you have this big screw that came with the servo horn that screws the servo horn into the output shaft on your servo. And this typically uses a larger hex head, so this is the 1.5 millimeter hex head. And we're just going to simply screw it on. Tighten it down a little bit. Don't over tighten it. It's metal, so you can tighten it a little bit more than you might otherwise would. So our remote, forgot to turn it off. It's still on. We're going to plug the battery back in. And so now we've got steering. We're going to need to center our steering using the trim. And then we're going to need to reset our endpoints. Now that we've got a new servo and horn, and I taped my drive shaft together while I was messing with it because it kept falling out. Get that out of there. What you're wanting to do again is turn it upside down. And it doesn't look like we're contacting. So we're going to turn up our dual rate. It could be steering trim, but we're going to turn it up a little bit. Yeah, let's just crank it all the way up. So if you have it cranked all the way up, you can see it wants to stop moving sooner than the servo stops. So it's putting pressure on your steering knuckles. We're going to turn it all the way one direction and slowly turn down our dual rate until it starts to move. So right about there. And then we're going to turn the other direction and continue to turn down our dual rate. Looks like it's already moving. So now we've set our endpoints again for our new servo setup, so you're not stressing your steering. So we've got a brand new servo, stronger steering links, so you're not going to have as much play in your steering, and you're ready to hit the rocks again. I'm going to put the body back on, and then let's go run on the rocks a little bit, see how these new tires do and our new servo. Actually, before that, I'm going to show you what I was talking about with these ears hitting the chassis rail. So as we flex, you can see how it hits and kind of makes your suspension not work right. If you're not running a bumper, you can just bend these out. You can also trim these off, which I should have probably taken my own advice. I'll do that later. But that's the issue that we run into. And then you can make your wiring a little neater than mine. I'm not too worried about it right now for the demonstration. I'll get that situated later. I'll see you on the rock shortly. The new servo functions great. You'll notice I've got better steering control. The stock servo was too weak to handle these wheels and tires. Get bound up and just couldn't steer. Now I can fight to find the right line and make it over these rocks and obstacles. Looking good while doing it. I find the tires, once they're scrubbed in, get a little bit grippier. Struggling to find the right line here. I think some high clearance links in the future will help sort that problem out. But still able to find the line and make it over these rocks. struggling a little bit with the steering angle. We're going to fix that in a future video. We're going to try a mod I've never tried that will give us some crazy steering with these stock axles. I'll show you how we do that soon. Could also use a little bit more forward weight. Struggling to find the right line, but eventually we find it, pull ourselves right up onto the rocks. Here we're going into the frame bender, one of the more difficult obstacles on the course. It doesn't look like it, but you've got to get your approach just right, or you're getting hung up and stuck in there. You'll get wedged and never get out. We're just easing into it, going nice and slow and predictable, trying to just get enough power to come out without flipping over. Go under the bridge, and then we'll do one of my favorite lines, come around up the stair steps and across the top of the bridge. There's a spider living under this rock. You can see I'm all caught up in his web again. It picks up a bunch of the gravel base for the crawler course, and I drag it around with me the rest of the time. I'm sure he's as annoyed having his little web messed up every time I come crawling as I am to pick the web off my tires. So we tolerate each other. Up onto the rock pile here, and that tire swap that I did, those 4mm changed my lines, and I'm getting stuck on my front diff. Just trying to figure out what line I can take to get around that. Got over it nice and easy. That suspension's still super bouncy. We'll get that taken care of soon too with some oil-filled shocks. Flexing through this kind of V canyon. And I think that front link looks so good. Can't wait to get the matching high clearance links under it. Overall, great upgrade. Helped get some weight on the front end, which it definitely needs more of. But she's crawling good. Thanks for joining me today. Hope this video was helpful for somebody out there. Hope it was fun if you already know all of this. I always think it's fun to upgrade a truck, see the progress that we make and how it looks and the performance. I'm really digging these new tires on this truck. Nice and wide and beefy. I think it looks super cool. I like the green links. I think for our next video we're going to do a motor swap and use a external ESC. We'll get rid of that stock whine from this ESC and settle out the jumpiness with a different motor and ESC combo. Let me know what you think. If you have any ideas for upgrades in the future for this truck, drop them in the comments. I enjoy reading through all the feedback. Like, subscribe, share, hit that bell for notifications when the new videos come out. You'll be notified, and I hope to see you again soon.